Were you too famous, Tanner?
Not really.
You will be.
Lucky me.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order at 8:33. Okay, adoption of the minutes or the agenda, sorry.
Sure.
Kyle. Second by Vern.
Don't need any seconders, no. Just we need to vote though.
Yeah, all in favor?
I don't know about that.
Agenda adopted. Okay, delegates, Hanna Curtis update, Tanner Coates.
So the floor is yours, Tanner.
Okay. I just wanted to do this because if the town is kind of floating us at the moment or helping us go, I don't think they should do it blind without seeing us actually try and make some money at the club and progress. So without further ado, we'll get started. So the wins we had in the last season, we had firefighters Bonsville, had 26 teams entered for that. That was ran by the Alberta Firefighters Association. So we had good bar revenue for that, and they paid us to rent the ice. Farmers Bonsville teams down a little from years past. Again, nice support from everybody in town on that. Mixed Bonsville, I think we had only 12 teams for that, which is down quite a bit. Some of that might have been timing on the year, things like that. We ran at the same time as the Cowboys tournament. So I think in the future, we're gonna do that continually because it works really good for bar revenue.
So Tanner, just a question, do you think that the numbers are down a little bit? And I know would be a guess, just as a result of COVID
I
and
think
some people who didn't curl for a couple of years, just like, I don't know if I'm gonna get back into it.
found that couch and didn't know any of it. Yeah, I think some of that.
Okay.
I don't think I have this number on here, but we do have 92 individual members at the club, and most of them are currently in at least 2 weeks. Ladies Bonsville 12 teams, and we had a Kevin Martin clinic, which did bring some buzz around the club. 40 people did the clinic and 80 were there for dinner. And I heard good things about that from everybody. And then the high school brought over some kids, and I went down and tried to teach them how to throw stones a little bit. I had a couple of kids interested that wanted to continue, but the problem comes there with them finding their own teams or players to play with. Problems we had in 23, the ladies league folded. We only had 2 or 4 teams, I think, sign up for it, so they just went in with the mixed league. Utilities, as everybody knows, keeps going up, and we don't have a junior program, which is something I am trying to get going, but I am kind of falling on my feet at the same time. So some new events, we're going to host the Women's Club Championship qualifier next year in June. So the qualifier of this, the winner of this qualifier goes to provincials, then goes to nationals if they win that, to represent Alberta in the club championships. Possibly a women's provincial qualifier. This qualifier is to go to the Alberta Scotties and then the National Scotties Championship that you'll see on TV.
You said you're hosting that in June?
January.
Oh, okay.
The women's provincial, I don't know if I'll get yet. I'm just putting in for it. U21 18 qualifiers are putting
So
in those
Tanner,
as
when
well.
you're putting those packages together for those bids, as
Yeah.
you say, if you require something from us, let me know, like whether you need a letter from the mayor or something that we can add to your package, like a package on what's in Hanna, certainly let us know.
Okay, so the bids on those aren't terrible. It's more, you just put in that you want to host one and they give you
Okay,
just
so it's
a,
not a big labor
Not terrible,
process
like-
trying to sell your club and your community.
not terrible. Like I also got offered a U15 qualifier because I couldn't try and club to host it, but I didn't think I could make it this year. So if that comes up again, though, I'm definitely gonna do it because it looks good to have the U15, U18.
Yeah.
You know, for young people who want to see, right? So we talked about curling Alberta, those any training opportunities in our facility. It's the biggest and probably in my opinion, the nicest rink within 200 kilometers in any direction. I talked to Shannon Clyburn, she's the head of Curling Alberta, and if there's any international teams that are looking for ice practice sites that can't find any, she's gonna give them our name to rent our ice surface. So we're also been asked if we can host a Ready to Rock program by Curling Alberta. So it's age 8 to 18, 6 to 8 week program. They pay us to host it and supply a instructor for the program. I'm just waiting to get some more details on that from Shannon. So again, we put in to host the men's qualifier. We have a casino this fall that we get to do, so that's usually a very nice little boost to a club's funds. Or get some bills paid down. Is it? So these are upgrades that we think should be done. These aren't like, this has to be done today, we're gonna spend a bunch of money doing it. These are just things that we need to kind of know are coming. So we're getting in-house decals like the rings. We have, I believe, 4 sheets spoken for right now with full house rings. That helps the ice go in quicker. It's nice ad revenue for us. And it just looks good in the club.
I haven't noticed, Tanner, one on there in the curling. So when you do that house, is it just at the one end?
For now it is,
Just
yeah.
at the one end, yeah.
Because on the far end, I wouldn't be able to charge.
Yeah,
same
you
amount
don't get
to
any,
the-
I was just thinking in terms of, you and I have talked about the timing of installation, that if they were on both ends.
It's quick.
It's a lot, it speeds up the time, right?
Yeah.
So,
If we can get ahead of the game a little bit, we
Yeah.
can just buy our own mesh
Yeah.
ones for the far end and then it's
yeah,
quick and easy. It takes no time. So we need carpets for the back and the front of the rink and the sides along the walls. Those are kind of disintegrating before our very eyes. I'd imagine they were put in when the club was built, so, yeah. So 30-ish, 35 years ago. 40 years ago.
Think if I listen through and the opposite, and then donated all
Those in the days. And we're gonna get some quotes on those to get this carpet replaced. Lower on the list is the downstairs could use a little bit of a facelift just to make it look a little nicer. None of it is pressing structurally or impedes us in any ways. It's just one of those things. The upstairs bar could use a little facelift one of these days. Just an update to make it look a little better for newer people coming into the ring. We did do the upstairs bathrooms about 3 years ago, and they look really good now. I think Kim can speak to that.
yeah, no, they're good.
We're hosting our cornhole tournament this year. We had about 20 teams entered. And then a challenge is with, Powell talked is planning stuff the same day as other teams. So the club wants to try and collaborate with other people to maybe have a March meeting, like if I'm gonna do a summer event, I should have a March meeting with the golf club because they're the predominant summer
'Cause I think that's.
event, right? And then we don't,
Yeah, it's usually March, April when we.
yeah, and then
all
I
of our
can
stuff.
plan my life around it in the summertime as well.
Is that the same weekend as yours?
As the 2-person, yeah.
Yeah. So financials in 2023. Bar income was $42,000, casino poll tickets, $300. I don't know, I'll be honest, I don't know exactly where it came from because we didn't have poll tickets this year. Like raffles, maybe. Donations, 16,000, memberships, 25,000, signs and logos about 9,000. Raffle tickets, 6,500, and then there's $300 just in kind of miscellaneous cash that came in. So $96,000, our expenses were 94,000, which includes 39,000 we gave to the town towards our utilities for a net revenue of $2,400, which that money is, I wouldn't really call it revenue. Call it more.
Subsistence survival.
Yeah, just a little bit in the account to keep us rolling for another year, a little extra in the account. This doesn't show what we do have in our accounts. I can get that to town council at another date, if need be. Yeah, another just a quick,
So
To do-
Tanner, I want to take a little bit of time with this council because I don't know, we haven't talked about it. I don't know if they know that the history and stuff. So I put together in the report just a bit of a history on the club. So Tanner, you was elected as president in the fall of 22. It's done a great job. Tanner, you've in my 10 years being back here, you've done the best job. No disrespect to anybody else, but you're very passionate about it, and you can see that in how we're moving forward. So when the arena was built, or the arena curling rink was built, the town had a lease agreement for the club to use the curling rink during the winter season. It was basically we would because the utilities are all on 1 meter. So we would just bill them an appropriate amount from when they start to when they end, a percentage of what we think the building will use on the curling rink side. And the utilities repairs, etc., was relatively straightforward. And, you know, when I was here in the 90s, curling was booming. The club was in tremendous financial shape. I remember Harry Fakel was the treasurer, and we create the invoice and he'd be down the next day with a check and pay it in full. Like they were sitting really, really nice. While I was gone, there were some changes. When I came back, one of the first things I dealt with in 2013 was the curling club saying, we owe the town money. This agreement that we have with you right now is unsustainable. We're not going to be able to continue to operate as a club. Council and administration of the day in 2013, and I still believe today, realize that having an active operating curling rink is something we need. Not only does it show signs that we're a community that people want to live in, we have a quality of life, and it brings people to our community. So we did meet with them at the end of 2013. The club owed the town of Hanna just under $60,000. And I don't want to get part of normally I'd be a little bit more concerned about a not-for-profit owing the town a significant amount of money like that. But I believe, Tanner, you guys still do, even though you owe us money, you still do have a significant amount of money.
we have enough to start up our season every year.
Yeah,
Kind of
so it's not
get
like,
our.
it's
guys
not like
paid.
that $2,400 is all they have in the
Yeah.
account. We've always taken the approach with the curling club that right, wrong, or otherwise, the town would be the last payee of the group. We wanted to make sure their staff were paid, any local businesses were paid, all of those people were paid. We could hang on, and so if they folded right now, if Tanner said to us, we're folding, our club's done, they wouldn't, they still have some money in their account that would offset that amount owed. So it's, we've told them never to run themselves too low, to make sure they have enough money to keep themselves going and pay the bills. So in March of 2014, we met with the curling club. We talked with their representatives at that time. At the end of the day, they had come to us and said, you know, we'd like it if the town would not charge us anything for our utilities, insurance. We would just pay our ice maker and the ice paint and rocks and stuff that they normally pay. At that point in time, we said we didn't think that was appropriate or that we could support to council. We continue to talk, and they proposed a 50% subsidy. So we generally right now, we provide a subsidy, as council is aware, to the farmers market. We provide a subsidy to the rodeo. So council today in 2014 agreed to provide them with a 33% subsidy. So back then, the cost of utilities, insurance, etc., in 2014 for the club to run the season was about $40,000. So that meant, with a 33% subsidy, they would pay 26,800, and then the town would eat the 13,200. We've been going along, and I think initially, between 24, that started as of January 1, 2014. I think as we moved along, we were making some headway, a little bit of headway. Then our friend COVID hit. Club had kind of parts of 3 seasons. It was the end of March of 2020 when it got shut down. Then started up in 2020, 2021 for a bit, and then got shut down. And of course, there was lots of restrictions if people wanted to participate in the sport, which deterred a lot of people from participating. So they kind of got themselves back into a little more deeper in the hole. So as we move forward, Tanner, when he got elected president, we chatted a little bit. And I told him certainly we'd have this discussion. But so as of the end of December, the town of Hanna is still owed $51,000 from the curling club. But that doesn't include January to March of this year.
I think we paid 15,000 not that long ago.
I think I included that in that number, Tanner. So they're probably somewhere in the 60, 65 range that they would owe us. So, it's something I think council, we're not here to make a decision today. It's something here that council may want to consider down the road, whether we want to increase the subsidy, 250 to save them a little bit more money and help them move forward. Up until, like I said, up until the agreement in 2014, I can safely argue that the curling club received little to no subsidy from the town on their operation. They paid everything in full, even paid to the point, like I know council replaced the condenser last year to the tune of 125,000. Back in the early days, we would have went to the curling club and said, you're required to pay half. We didn't on this situation. And the other thing that we've done most recently in the curling rink is we had all of the lights changed to LED lights. That was, again, we got a grant for about 75% of it. So the town picked up the other 25%. So like I said, it's that's where they're at. Like I said, Tanner's been very open and doing his best to try and revive the club and get more interest, get more people in there. And again, things have changed over the time, even in society. We look at not that in the 90s when I was here, but the bar was much busier. People weren't as concerned, I think, in the 90s about 0.08 or 0.05, and it was, after curling, everybody was up. And like I said, when I was here in the 90s, there was curled in men's, and there was enough for two draws. So there was close to 20 teams. Now, Tanner, you're 8 to 10. So trying to get that interest back in the sport is critical. And I think, I noticed with the clinic that you ran, a number of our, at least on the mixed side, a number of the mixed curlers who are fairly new to the game were at the clinic and really enjoyed it. So I just wanted council to be aware. This is the agreement we have. So I did attach the agreement in 2014 that was signed. The key part is, at this point in time, and I've told people for the last 20, 30 years, we're just estimating power. So when we put the building and ice plant, we bill them for 40% of the power. We bill the curling rink 35% of the natural gas and the 40% of the water. Whether those are accurate or not, I couldn't tell you. So it's just an estimate. So that's kind of the schedule. And that's the agreement we currently have as of 2014. So I don't know if there's any, council has any questions, any concerns,
I always have questions.
go ahead, Sandra Bowden.
Oh, sorry. I do have a couple questions. Congratulations firstly on doing such a wonderful job to get out and promote Hanna to your opportunities are amazing. And kudos for you for doing that, because I think that will that has swayed my opinion to support the 33%. I do want to know a little bit more about the expenses. With the $39,000 we put towards utilities, that leaves about $55,000. So I just want to know a little bit more about the expenses that would be left or that you've paid within the time frame. And also if you've approached special areas for some financial support as well. I think they do some, and they never hurt to ask, in my opinion.
So if you want to do the first one, Tanner, I'll do the second one.
I think I know the answer to the second one too. So some of those expenses are wages for our ice maker. The ice going in is an expensive endeavor. We have to pay him extra to do that because it's not an easy job. It's our cleaning of the upstairs and downstairs, and there's, you know, the bar is also an expense. That 40,000 wasn't all profit, that was total revenue, not total profit. So,
Great.
I mean,
Okay.
tag 20 of that to expenses or so. Or
Do
more.
you have some sort of guesstimate on what you could be making with the opportunities you listed? Or that's kind of really an unknown at this point?
The events, like the qualifiers, we are paid as of right now $400 a day for those events. Curling Alberta is looking at raising those rates because they know that it's not cheap to run anything. The Ready Rock program is just a straight $800, but I think in the long run, that's $800 will turn into hopefully a lot more.
I think the key, and Tanner can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the key with hosting those qualifiers or those events is trying to generate interest in the sport, as well as bringing those individuals from out of town into our community for those few days and
Yeah.
staying in hotels and all those good things. So,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sure.
And with those events, you know, there's some pretty high level teams that play in those qualifiers, so. You know, that's some, yeah, it's kind of some buzz. Like if the team that's played in the Scotties is playing in a qualifier, you're gonna go watch.
Oh, no kidding. Is there any opportunity, do you think, that during that time frame that you might be able to say close a seat and have on ice spectators that pay for an opportunity to watch them play for additional revenue?
I don't know how I would do that without destroying a couple sheets for the rest of the season. Cause you would have to completely take that sheet out and reflood it to get it back working. The only other event that you could do that you would have paying spectators was you'd have to work with Hanna Minor Hockey and host some Pizza Cup, which is the men's Canadian or Alberta championship for the Alberta Scotties, and then that's a paying event and televised event and things like that. But there's
Yeah.
large bid packages that go into that, and that's a whole other can of worms that I'm not ready to get into just yet.
So Councillor Bowden, just back to the special areas question. We get this question often. Special areas does provide funding to curling rinks in the special areas region because we own the building. They provide the town with a recreation operating grant, which does include our curling rink. So I know we've been questioned because I know special areas will post in the paper where they made their payments to, and I know the one that sticks out in my mind is Pollockville. And there's a check to Pollockville for $20,000 or whatever as their cost share. So we get, probably something as an equivalent in our Our recreation cost share with special areas is about 180,000 a year, so there is a portion of that 180,000 that is allocated to the curling rink. So we don't, in our financial system, we don't do a breakdown and allocate different portions of that to different facilities. We have it one lump sum in recreation, and it's showed as one lump sum of a check for 180,000. So that's been raised on more than one occasion, Councillor Bowden. So, but there is money from special areas towards the curling club.
Just thought it never hurts to ask.
No,
You know, maybe they have some additional surplus that they may be, see as providing additional, never hurts.
And they do donate things to Bondsville's and stuff like that if we ask. So,
Yeah. Yeah, no, everybody's, you know, quite generous and that sort of thing. Thank you.
So my questions have to do with the curling club, if I were to equate it to the golf side.
okay,
We should at least be in the same ballpark, excuse the pun, with our support. And I know in the past, I believe, prior to me joining as a counselor, there were some loan forgiveness done with the golf club, correct?
correct.
So when you have a situation, certainly the pandemic had an incredible impact on the curling club, which was in a bit of a struggle to start with, not for anything else than it's just the world changes, just like the bar income has dropped. What you need to do is have a little edible section.
Yeah.
And then you'd have
try
lots of
different
people,
things.
or a coffee bistro or something to generate income, because I would pay $10 for a beautiful coffee, but paying $2 for water drives me crazy. So it just depends what I get. Because there's lots of people like me who just choose not to have any alcohol at all. And you have to be more creative in generating revenue from the people who no longer consume alcohol. And then that might have a difference. But I'm just curious as to where the golf subsidies tie into this. Is it about the same?
So it's a totally different situation.
Is it? Okay.
And I'll try and my best to explain it. So the golf course basically, since its inception, has operated independently of the town. There's been no subsidy, no money provided on an annual basis for them to operate their club. 3 years ago, 4 years ago, time flies. When the club expanded into 18 holes from 9 holes, the town provided them with a loan.
Okay.
And they were making payments on that loan, got down to owing $68,000 and made a request to council of the day to ask that to be forgiven, primarily because they had some other outstanding capital projects that were coming down their pike that they needed to do. And council of the day made a decision to forgive that loan. So I see it a little bit differently. Like since 2014, theoretically, we've been subsidizing the operation of the curling club.
Yeah.
We did one lump sum forgiveness to the golf course of 68,000 back in 2013. So I hope I explained it a little bit differently, but
So we're
generally
not subsidizing the golf course on a regular.
the only thing we do that costs the town money on a regular basis with the golf course is we technically own the buildings and we insure the buildings.
Okay.
So I think you'll see in our financials for the golf course, you'll see a section that says insurance and it's $2,500 or $2,800. So we had just insure those buildings.
So from that perspective, I'm certainly very supportive, and the numbers don't reflect all of those people who come into Hanna for those events, because they don't show up for the day and go home. They usually come for the weekend. They spend money. They go other places. They go to the restaurants. They go to the liquor stores, and they go to the hotels. So it does have a financial impact on the town. the reputation we have, especially since you started, Tanner, has been phenomenal. It's really made a big difference. Not that I want your head so big you can't make it out the door, but I've seen it as a print shop. I certainly saw that making a big difference. So I'm supporting anything that can help you get past this, because I see it growing. And I see a growing interest that might actually make a difference over the next couple of years.
And something like a loan or forgiveness or something isn't something that I want for a club. I want us to get out of it. And then it's a lot easier to go back and have a capital project. And like, we need a little money to loan that we can try and pay back.
Even as we go back through Council Murphy, even when council made the decision in 2014 to start the subsidy, the amount that was owed wasn't forgiven.
Right.
So that amount has been kept on our books as we've moved forward. It wasn't, we're gonna give you a subsidy and we're forgetting about the debt that's owed. It's always stayed on the books. And you know, until council tells us otherwise, it will stay on the books in that same fashion. So. But I guess I'm just kind of fishing with council a little bit too. Tanner and I haven't even had this discussion, but what the appetite would be if Tanner and I work together over the next little while, and maybe at when council's working on their 24 budget, you know, provide some scenarios on increased level of subsidy on their operation. And you can consider it, you know, at that time when you're going through the budget, whether you want to, because if we increased it from 33 to 50, for example, you know, that would be a cost to the town. So I just think that, you know, I know the clubs, I believe the club's going in the right direction. But you know, what's going to compound their efforts and going in the right direction is just the cost of everything is going up, and it's a bit of it's catching them. And again, we've prided ourselves and councils have prided themselves on living the lifestyle, having a high quality of life. And I think if we get to the point where we lose a service or an amenity like that, and I'm not saying that they're contemplating that, it certainly has has an effect on that quality of life and that image that we want to project to people who are moving to our community or considering moving to our community. So that's might be something Tanner and I work at and look a little bit at over the next number of months, and in preparation when we sit down with you guys in, you know, November to talk budget for 2024.
In a global environment in Alberta, are we an exception? Or is this what's
This is the
happening?
rule within current clubs in
It's a
Alberta.
struggle throughout
Yeah.
the project.
Tanner, correct me if I'm wrong, you probably are in no more than me, but I read quite often a lot of curling clubs across Canada that are closing.
Oh, yeah.
They're actually closed.
They're actually closing the club.
Canada's closing clubs and America's building them at a rate that's never been seen before.
So we need to tap into that US
Yeah.
market and have them, just like we're doing with the Can-Am, right? Because we've got
The football.
the football, tap into that interest and have them come on up, we're the home and we'll go back.
So, yeah, that's kind of what I've looked I think partly what I see with the curling clubs that are folding is their buildings have deteriorated to a point that they can't afford to do the major capital upgrades, and that's kind of one of the reasons that they're folding. So I have read quite a bit in Canada. I don't know so much in Alberta, if there's been many in Alberta, but
There's been a couple in Calgary over the past 30 years. Or 20 years or so that went down, like 48 sheets of ice at the big four in Calgary is all gone, right?
yeah. So yeah, I think curling's becoming more popular as a televised sport, but maybe not as a participating sport, so.
I loosened the market area, it's number 7 or 8. In most watched.
In the Olympics, it's the most watched in the United States. winter sports.
Yes.
So anything?
Yeah, I think-
Okay.
Congratulate you on all the work that you've done, and I think it'll be interesting to see what the response is and what changes that it'll make after this year with, additional, events that you're planning and putting Hanna on the map. That's incredible work that you've been doing, and, I'm very supportive of the 33%. And hopefully then the school will get more involved and there will be, so much more getting back in spring. Do you get any revenue from the concession at all or not?
No, we don't. That's ran independently.
Okay, thank you.
And I think, Tanner, correct me if I'm wrong, there's not a lot of activity there, so it's more, you want that individual there as a service.
Yeah.
Versus cost sharing.
Versus trying to get, yeah. It's used mostly seniors league on Mondays and Wednesdays and Wednesday nights supper sometimes, but
Yeah, other than Bonspiel.
other than Bonspiels, yeah. It's not a huge money making endeavor.
Yeah. Thank you.
Is there still issues? I remember last year, maybe year before, I thought the sheets on the west end, one or two of them
Yes.
were always warmer, softer.
Yeah,
No, I don't know if
That's
I
still a
say
thing.
warm or softer, but,
Something
so
was, were,
Sheldon has been looking and trying to figure out what's happening, and he's found some issues with some air getting underneath. So he is gonna fix that for this coming season. One other issue that we think might be is the dark wall on the outside. It's heating up that outside sheet a little more. It's causing us some grief. Yeah, it's not making it easy, but that was a thought that I had, yes, was just spray painting it white and hoping that was the issue, but.
Yeah, because it's only been a few years, this, I remember when I first started. All the ice was perfect, but then over time, it's aggressively that one. This, all the tournaments that we've, or advances that we've always had.
Yeah, the sheet 6 has always been bad. 1 sometimes is bad, but
Yeah, we had, last time we had 2 people that were professional ice makers,
Yeah.
they were looking at it, and we talked to Sheldon about it.
yeah,
so I don't know, Tanner, this past year, like I know the firemen curled on all 6, farmers curled on all 6.
Yeah. So Sheldon, the ice maker, has been doing a fantastic job keeping the ice up. Like he works very hard at keeping that ice in good shape. So we use 6 just about all year. The last 2 weeks we really couldn't because it just got so warm out. It didn't work. So
Yeah. So I don't know. I always, again, I don't have the answer there, but I think, people were saying that the concrete was up and down and stuff, but I don't think it's that. I think whether there's some, as Tanner alluded to, we're gonna see too, even on the arena side, to try and have the lines blown out. And sometimes you get a section of line that the brine gets too heavy and it plugs in and you don't get any freezing through there, through that section, or not as much freezing through that section. So, but that's one of the tough things because it's undercover, under concrete, you're just kind of guessing in some situations, but we're gonna do some pressure tests and see if there's any difference there, so.
Continue to send information to us to help on events and things. It's trying to, for teams to
get rolling.
get rolling, we help get that word out as much as we can.
That'd be good. It'd be nice to have some growth in me this year.
And say there with all your other projects. Similar to
Okay.
No,
I will do that.
Yeah.
because we've always. They're excited the Elks, we've always. Supported.
Yeah. So
Use it.
yeah, well, with that qualifier, I'm waiting on the actual hosting package to come through to see what they want from us. It sounds like it's pretty simple, but let's see what they need.
Is that for Shaunavon is our national, so we're not too sure where we're hosting it the next time. So. Yeah. We've done that here 4 times, so. since we've gone to the 2-man, or to stick to it, we have to,
Oh,
Participants.
yeah. Yeah, it took a lot of the 4-person to the 2-person. Because it's easier to get 2 people to come than it is to make seniors or
4-person team.
4-person team.
And those are things too that I'm trying to work on is different styles of curling to maybe get different leagues, like there's stick curling, there's mixed doubles. There's a triples now, they have some rules for that's a pretty fun game. So just different ways of doing that as well.
If it was anything, make it a little faster, than just the whole thing. A lot of people like that 2-man, it's 1 hour.
And that's the building that has that weird funky wall where the men's washroom
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, Tanner mentioned the downstairs, so our downstairs is functional.
Yeah,
Everything functions, is it pretty? It's
No.
not pretty,
no,
but
not
it's
pretty.
functional, and what the curling club did upstairs in their lounge was make their washrooms pretty, so. Something we have to figure out, but the challenge, you got so many different groups and people in there, sometimes functional works better, but it might not be ideal for the curling situation, but it might be ideal for the grad family party, or the gun show or whatever, so.
But it's a curling rink, so our number one, I
Yeah, no.
think, is making sure that we at least support
Yeah.
the curling club so that we can continue to be proud of our curling events that we have.
and I'm working with Harvest Guy to try and find grants for things like
Oh, great.
making the downstairs look a little nicer.
And I think Tanner, generally, if there was going to be some improvements to theirs, we would 100% cost share. Cost share those, because it's used not just for curling, it's used year round. So we definitely, the lounge, we've drawn a hard line on the lounge because that's the curling clubs, and the curling club is the says who uses it, who doesn't use it, and that's the curling club, but the downstairs is part of the building and used for everything. So we certainly would cost share anything that in the downstairs.
Questions or?
I ain't gonna pump them up anymore than anybody else.
We won't fit out.
Yeah, exactly.
Presentation. Very informative. Good.
Thanks for,
Forward to dealing with you in the future.
hopefully it's a good news story again the next time. I have to talk to you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Tanner.
So Deputy Mayor Kroll, we should have this motion approved. So just, and again, you did thank Tanner, but just to have that on the books.
Oh,
You gotta read that.
the first
Yeah, I'm
one, yes.
not reading that full page. I think we're really good at that. I've seen this, so. Motion
I
made
will
by
move.
Sandra.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Yeah,
Carried.
Great.
Thank you, Tanner.
You don't wanna stick around, talk about chickens?
Yeah.
Not today.
Yeah, this next public presentation. You really want me to go? It's up to you.
We're visiting a few councils, but, you guys wanna know where we headed? Now you guys got everything set up for smart city? As do streetlights. They're not supposed to contain any electronics. They catch your cell phone wherever you go in town, those new lights.
Can I have your name, sir? I'm sorry, I don't.
Oh, sorry, Swen Peterson.
Thank you.
I bought your son's house. Oh, you know where I live too. Anyway. I'm not worried about the streetlights. They got a few cameras in it, but some electronics. Fine with me, I don't care. Can you put this in?
Did we get that in advance?
Oh,
Because that may be a security,
oh, I see, you're worried about bugs. Okay. Number one. Then I guess I'll just talk. I was talking to right here the other day, and I told him what I have found on the internet by Google. Trudeau actually signed an agreement with WEF October 2020.
WEF?
Yeah.
As in the Western Economic Forum?
World Economic Forum.
World Economic.
And I would suggest you guys Google that. There's a 26-minute video that comes up. A conservative MP explains it, what she found, because he has kept that hush. And don't forget, Trudeau admires China.
I'm sorry, which MP? I'm sorry, you're a conservative MP in Alberta?
No, federal.
Federal.
But yeah. What disturbing to me was I put in Google what it cost China to go communistic in 1949. They went communistic back then, and it cost them about 20 million people, or 1/9 of their population. I put in Russia. They went communistic in 1912. Between 1912 and 1968, they have killed off 126 million people of their own. Google it. That's where I got it. So out of curiosity, I put in, do China have a kill list? And up pops for Taiwan, because right now they've been talking about going there. The biggest question for you guys is, do the liberals here, as they call themselves, have a kill list? Yeah. It's bad stuff. And if they do, are we on it? I know I might be, because I'm speaking up. Oh, by the way, Russia, when they took over the communistic, they walked into a room like this and said, thank you guys very much for helping us. You're done, out. They looked at them and said, you guys are done because we've seen what you can do and what you did. You betrayed your own people, you'll betray us. Gone. They killed 126 million people. Keep it in mind. I'm not here just to say WEF. Think about this, folks. This is bad stuff we have against. This is some of this stuff that April Reese didn't want to talk about, but she had already seen. She got emotional about it. Because she saw some of the possible list. But yeah, Google, do China have a kill list? And they literally have made one for Taiwan now. It's about we can have more about it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I don't just take a view. But do you guys some favor, give me some of this done.
Okay,
Mr. Neal.
thank you, Deputy Mayor. Don't have much in my report, just kind of an update on things that are happening. Summer's generally busy time around here. Everything seems to be running, knock on wood, fairly good, fairly smooth. We did get an invite. I included in the package something to think about. If anybody had any ideas or issues that they wanted to speak to Minister of Municipal Affairs with at AM, we certainly have, they've invited us, whether we would be selected. I'm sure they're oversubscribed in terms of municipalities who want to meet with the minister during AM conference, but they do want to know what we want to speak about. So
We have some infrastructure issues that we've got to get done.
Yeah, no, that could be one, and I wanna just be, I guess upfront and honest. I think every community will have the same, so I think they're kind of looking for, any community specific. I know we met with the minister, I think in your guys'
Yeah.
first term.
Yeah.
So that would have been 2021. Right? Shortly after you were elected, I believe we met.
Yes.
Because 22 was in Calgary last year and we didn't, so. So is there anything? Think about it, we've got till the 13th, so we can put that on the July 11th council meeting date to come up, but certainly we would advocate the same as everyone else on infrastructure funding, and dollars from the province needs to be increased. I don't think that's a one that's probably on everybody's list, but
Well, it's probably on everybody's list too, but I mean, distribution fees, I think. They gotta talk between whether we pay their extortion of distribution fees or windmills taking everything.
so you're talking on the power.
Yeah.
Side. Wow, not even natural gas to a certain degree.
I mean, there's no way they'll lose their landscape with windmills, but they also get a deal on distribution fees all along the corridor.
Yeah.
You gotta have discussions, one or the other. For the name.
I have a question. I was just wondering whether or not the weather station and the GPS, connection with the airport would be fall within that, possibility of connecting to the, or is that a whole different ballgame?
I don't know if it's a whole different ballgame, Councilor Bowden. I just know that it's in discussions. Again, I don't profess to be an expert, but there may not be a requirement for us to have a weather station once Oyens is up and running. Once they've done their calculations and their numbers, there might be really not much benefit to us having a weather station here, is my understanding, but
Yeah, and that's the opinion of the pilot group, or
yeah,
a member of the pilot group, is they would gain the benefit of Oyens weather station, since we're within their range of X nautical miles. That for us to have our own would be like single-digit percentage increase.
yeah. So we can certainly follow that up, whether we need to in the future, once Oyens is up and running, and then they can figure out the calculations on how much visibility clearance we can run with. It will be a little bit less than what Oyen has, because Oyen has it right there and we're however many nautical miles away. But as Councillor Olson said, based on discussions with a local pilot, it might be, you might be looking at 1 or 2%. So it might be quite minimal, but we won't know that until they're up and running. So
Yeah, it would be nice to have the pilots come and visit to all of us as well, so that we all have access to some of that information. And I think I mentioned that before, or it would be nice to invite them to speak to all of council, so, that would be nice.
okay, the other thing, just wanted to, so our bylaw, our municipal enforcement officer has been at work, probably back here for 3 weeks to a month. Has made several phone calls, several unsightly notices. We actually, I think when I met with her yesterday, I think 6 or 7 orders were being posted for cleanup, because the phone call and the email saying you need to clean up your property weren't effective. So we are working through those. There still are, I'm gonna say there's a half a dozen that we are going through the municipal order position on. I do have Officer Rapol coming to the July council meeting, so we'll have just providing an update in terms of the number of files that have been opened, that she's been working on, and I guess answer, kind of even go through the process for council in terms of how we're moving through them. We are still trying to be somewhat friendly with most of them in terms of giving them a phone call, giving them an email, asking them to clean up within a certain period of time. And when when that hasn't been met, then we're following through with the orders. So, Tracy will be here at the July 11th meeting. The other thing, just a couple things, reminder for those of you on council who are here for Canada Day. I did include the list of things going on. Primarily, the town activities start at 12:30 at RCMP Park with the flag raising, followed by the barbecue at the community center. We have the traveling navals performing on the patio community center. And of course, Cactus King Hunter Park will be full of bounce houses and face painters and music. Pool is free public swimming, bike parade out of Fox Lake, and just another plug. So the fireworks are 11:30 p.m. on July 1st. So we do, it gets confusing at times because we sometimes do them on June 30th if July, if the next day's July 1st, the next day's a work day. So they are on July 1st this year. So, moving forward, the other thing we added to your package late, just for information, just a little bit of information on, the Town of Hanna sign and Lanny. So, as council is aware, they did donate the sign, back in probably March or April. Al Coates, former general manager of the Flames, and Colin Patterson, former player, were out last week, and picked up the sign, and we're taking it back to Calgary to share with Lanny. So Lori's gonna do a little bit of a news release and promo on it, but we just wanted you guys to see it first. So they were extremely happy, extremely gracious to have it, and hopefully it works out well for them. I know we still do have one sign that I know there's been some interest in, so we might see, the mayor had an idea on potentially how we might raffle the last one off or whatever, but they are in fairly poor condition. As you can see, that one, it was our best one, and it's joined in the middle, so it's, but they all need some work, so just wanted you to let you know that they were picked up and hauled away last week, and we're gonna do some social media news releases and stuff on it, so I think that's, go ahead, Councilor Woden.
Sorry, I think that it may have been brought up at a council meeting as well, as maybe a potential to have one just as you come in, near maybe the former electronic sign where people can still stop and get pictures with it, with the Nickelback acknowledgement on it as well. I have lots of people that were quite interested in that sort of opportunity.
Yeah, I think Councilor Bowden, that could be an option. The other option that we are looking at too, potentially for that existing electronic sign, is the bottom piece. Maybe that's where we then create something that says Home of Nickelback on it as well versus the entire sign. So, but there are some options. We do actually, we probably have two signs. One we've kind of set aside for the museum. But if they're not interested in it, then we could have two signs that we could have availability of doing something with. So
That's pretty rough shape.
they are in rough shape, but they're original, authentic.
Right.
So if there's any questions from council on anything going around town, I'll do my best to answer them. So.
Is there anything specific that you need for councillors on July 1st? Is there a tweak or something that's being cut, or is there something specific that you need some involvement from the council?
I don't believe so, Mayor Pavischuk, unless he gets detained and contacts Deputy Mayor Pearl, will be at the flag raising and say a few words there. Other than that, we love to see council out and about if they're here, just visiting with our residents. We do have, you know, the firemen are taking care of the barbecue. But we do have, I think, same as last year, we have some ice cream treats that we hand out versus cutting the cake. So certainly if someone from council was around and wants to hand out some of that, certainly would be welcome to do that. So, but there's no assigned duties that we require you, but we would encourage you to be there and see how the event goes. You guys are the ones who are authorizing us to spend money on it. So we can get an idea of how it's being received. So.
Yeah, thank you. It's just that, you know, I think in the first term there was cake cutting and all that. So it's nice to know that, you know, we go and we do see the flag raising and that sort of thing, and then, you know, what else is there for it. So it's nice to do know that in advance. And yeah, at what time is the ice cream?
Generally it would be, I don't know if there's a specific time. We don't promote it as a specific time, but I think probably my guess would be, it would be around 2 o'clock-ish, kind of after the barbecues died down and everybody's fed.
Yeah.
So
In line with the barbecue. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Any questions from Mr. Inman?
Just on some of the safety issues that have been brought up this week, I'm sure you've seen some of the posts that we've had potentially some animals injured. The theft rate is there anything as council we can do to try and calm down people who are really starting to get concerned with these thefts and animal deaths? Is this normal? Does this happen all the time and we just don't hear about it?
well, I guess I want to be careful. I want to be careful with what I said. I did see the post about the dog being found dead. I don't want to jump to any conclusion that there's something nefarious happens until that's proven. If it's proven it's a despicable, horrible thing that someone would do. But as far as the thefts, I guess all we can do is continue to put that on the RCMP's radar. I do think, as council's probably aware, that we are having more people in the community who are whether they have economic challenges, whether they have some mental health issues, they're finding their way here. And, you know, we're unfortunately not necessarily in the best place to manage and deal with them with the resources we have, but I don't think it's going away. I think even in fact, I would expect over the next month or two that we may have a visit from Mrs. Vino at the Learning Center Links in terms of looking for some financial assistance with their meal program on the Wednesdays.
It's big, it's busy, right?
It's getting busier and it's getting bigger, and you know, I think we said I think Duray had indicated to me they're about $750 a week. Is what it's costing them to put that meal on. So
The food banks had, well, last week they had 3 new clients sign up. The week before they had 5, so they're meeting, I guess. So,
Yeah.
Whatever, definitely.
Yeah.
Finding their way, you know.
yeah,
And to get to the point of going to a food bank takes a family that's struggling months because of the embarrassment, which is unfortunate, but it's true. So the fact that you've had 8 or 9 in 2 weeks is amazing. So you can imagine how long they were struggling before they got to the point where they had to go to the food bank. Yeah.
well, and some of them, like I worked at the food bank about 3 weeks ago, and I know that day, I believe we had a couple of new families from Ukraine.
Wow.
So that were at the food bank. So again, I don't know how they end up here or how they find their way here. But it's gonna be an issue. It's not gonna go away. So theft side, yeah, that's all I can do is the RCMP are our enforcement and law, so we need to make them aware. And if theft is a priority in the community, then that's what we need to tell them to focus on.
I think the RCMP should be informed. All they're doing is causing vigilante. Like they catch these guys, they put them in jail for an hour, there it is.
Yeah.
They've got more control over it.
Yeah,
So
I feel
people are-
sympathy for the RCMP in that
Yeah.
regard because the court system puts them back out, they catch them, they put them in jail, they do their job, and then they're back out on the street in a day or an hour, or however long it takes to do that. And it must be extremely frustrating for them, I would imagine, to have to do that. So. But that's my comments around that, Council Murphy, so.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? Okay. On to business items, Case Solar Project. Discussion.
So I'm gonna turn the floor over to Councillor Olson. He asked if we could put this on the agenda because he wanted to just have a general discussion on questions council may have, concerns council may have, those types of things. So.
Kim, so I just wanted to see, at the presentation, their public presentation, there was a low 30 amount of turnout. Councillor Bowden and myself were there. The vibe there, of course, was strongly against. I struggle with people who just give no facts, but just, yeah, right. So there was a few of those, but there was some very legitimate concerns, of course. And when Claude sat here and said, if the community doesn't want us here, we don't want to be here, right? We don't want to be that company, that person. That entity here. So I posed the question to him and just said, how do you gauge that? And I'm confident he didn't want to ask that room for a show of hands to gauge it, which is fair. And he rightfully said, when people support it, they don't speak up, but when they're against it, they do, which I'll give him that. But I personally have had one person who said they like it. They like the project, they like the location. I've had a lot of people say they're comfortable with the project, they're not comfortable with the location. So I don't know. I mean, Drumheller did this big battle as a Fox Cooley or something, whatever that solar development is. Council spoke out against it, residents spoke out against it, AUC said, we don't care, and did it anyways. So it may all be for nothing, but I would really like to push pace to maybe have some conversation with special areas, find a different location. We grossly misidentified the potential issues with and I don't like comparing it to ON because windmills and solar are a very different animal, but the potential restrictions on our airport is very concerning. The land use is one thing. It's, if I consider, I used to think that I'd like it for an industrial park, but that gives the same concerns of having panels there, if not more. So I don't know, just discussion on what people thought. If we do a letter to Claude, we register as an intervener, as a town entity with AUC, would be something I guess that you would drive. Yeah, we can register first before, because they haven't done anything to AUC yet. But when they do, then at least there's something on file. And he said and Claude said his team, Rhonda will help people through that process, and they're supportive of it. They seem to appreciate that there's an ability for people to speak up and they want to do right by there. And at the same time, he talks about open discussion and shut down a lot of open discussion in my mind. So I just wouldn't mind pushing them a little bit as a council entity.
So, is the next step, Kyle, would we like to have Claude back here to provide more, like, he was here January 25th.
Yeah.
Provide an update as to where they're at in the process and also allow an opportunity for this council to question him on some of these concerns you're hearing in the community and like I'm looking for you as kind of what council would like to see.
Yeah, I don't know what the best way to start dialogue is, if it's a letter on behalf of council, if we're all in support of it. And I understand we'd probably do that at a real council meeting. And then at least send him a letter saying we have these concerns. Excuse me, whether we want, just to prove that he's, looked at other options. I'm not against the project. And he touted a big game about how he wants it in town for the town to get the money. There's one person that has said, yes, the money would be really nice. That's what would really help their decision. But he doesn't quite get the relationship between special areas and Hanna. And I'm confident if they get that money, we get a healthy portion of that money as well. They're good partners.
Okay, what I'll do, certainly if there's further discussion, we can. Following the meeting, I was unable to go on Wednesday. Claude reached out to me on Thursday, wanted to have a discussion on how the meeting went. We've been playing telephone tag since. I was in the process of moving and doing different things. He was busy. He's in Nova Scotia this week, so we've left each other some messages, but I'm going to try. My goal is to touch base with him and see if he's going to be around. We can have a sit down. Only comment I have from him was that as much as you said, he said it was a rougher meeting in terms of the people that were there were generally opposed to the project. And I think, for lack of better words, I think he felt that the people that were there who were opposed were not very open-minded.
Nor was he.
That was his comment.
Fair on both sides. So.
But yeah, so I'm trying, we haven't touched base in terms of what next steps are and where they're at, but I do think that it would not hurt to have him back here before you guys to provide you with an update as to where they're at in the process, what their next anticipated steps forward. And I think an opportunity for you guys to ask some questions and put your concerns forward to him at that time too, so.
I'd like to say something. When is an opportunity to take something to a referendum? I think we heard from a select group, and those that are in favor, as Councilor Olson had mentioned, they don't come forward so much as those that are against. I know that there was, I left the meeting early before it was done because the anger in that room was just, and I felt embarrassed that our community would treat somebody that is trying to do something. You can disagree and still be polite and courteous and then and maybe I'm not so much myself, but I know that I do have a problem with them. They had included land that the owner was not consulted, and that happened to be our land. So we were not consulted, and it kind of gives the impression then that that we are supportive of it. And right now I'm not for or against. I'm trying to get enough information and that sort of thing. But every single time it seems like their legals are wrong. And again, in this information that was submitted in the package, the legals are incorrect. The second legal that is indicated in there isn't any section indicated on there. So, and to me, I have a concern with that. If you can't get the basics of the actual land site correct, then I have a concern about the rest of it to follow. So that is something I really have a concern with. But I'll listen to them and have the information. But I think we need to take it to the entire community and give everybody an opportunity to say, yes, I like it, no, I don't, or I'm indifferent, or whatever. I think it's just too early to say, based on the few that we have heard from, that we need to hear from the others, that maybe there's more that are in favor that we just don't hear about. And I have a concern with the landowner not living in our community. They have nothing, it's strictly monetary, which is understandable, but they don't have to deal with the rest of the community for the 25 plus years that it will or will not be in place. And again, as well, the impact on our airport, even if they do the glare and all the other, I still am concerned as well with the airport, whether it's the racing club that uses it occasionally, or, you know, mostly with our airport and our pilots and that group. So I do have some concerns, but I do think that we need to hear more from our community before we make a decision one way or the other, or put a letter forward saying, you know, one way or the other.
So my only comment, Councillor Bowden, a plebiscite is certainly an option, but it is a costly option and a time-consuming option, because it's very similar to running an election. So you know, not, and when I say costly, not crazy costly, but you'd probably be looking at, you know, I think to run a general election, you're looking at about $5,000. So it would be probably similar in that range. You'd have to run it like an election, but there'd be one question, one answer.
And no matter what we decide, it's a really high chance it's all for nothing. We don't truly have a say in here. They say they consider it, but yeah, I mean, the trial, whatever it was with that one by drum, was their decision, said, okay, they'll do, it was something slightly different with the panel, so there's no glare or something different, but it still happened.
Yeah, so I have a question, because I wasn't at the open house or the public consultation. Do they have the glare study done?
Yes. Some of it was, some of the data was there, and he said he was gonna have it on the website, that presentation, but it wasn't as of last night.
Yeah.
And there's nothing of concern, however, they simply look at, they don't look at the whole circuit, all the different angles, and the flight club had presented on all the angles, and there's everything. And it's every angle, and it's every potential time of day that they need to calculate. And all they did was just basically the descent to land. Equally as dangerous is the circuit, equally dangerous is taking off. So it seemed unsatisfactory in the minds of some of the flight club.
Okay, because the original plan was, when the glare study was done, is that they were going to have a separate meeting with the pilots to go through it in depth, and then it was delayed, and the date we had was canceled. And then whether they showed a highlighted version of
Yeah, there was some there.
Okay.
They also don't consider the grass runways as well.
Okay.
So there's some there, there's some data for sure.
Okay. I was just curious as whether they had put that in or not, so. And I looked on their website too, and those are the ones, but those are approved projects.
Yeah.
They're not the ones
It's,
that are in the works. They call it
Harvest
Sky.
Sky Solar
Yeah,
is the,
the website, and that's the site name they've given.
and it's specific just for that project.
Yeah. But I look interested in any other comments from other members of council on solar, what you're hearing, what your thoughts are, what questions you might have.
I agree strongly with Kyle. I agree, the project's gonna be go ahead no matter what, but we gotta do something to try and ensure the location.
And I think they alluded to a different substation, did they not?
No, he did clear that up after. I didn't take it the way some people did, but he explained how they enter this substation. And of course, they put 40 megawatts here, the town, I don't remember the numbers, the town consumes 9 megawatts, so they can't disperse it all from the substation. But there's a line that goes to the Sullivan Lake substation that already exists, that they would then send excess power there, and that would be the distribution point. Some people took that as the line goes directly from their solar project to Sullivan Lake, which it doesn't. It's solely an existing line, and that's just a different way to get it distributed through the grid.
Okay, because I'd heard from a gentleman who had attended the public consultation, and that's what he referred to, because we talked about the location, and for me, my understanding of why that location was chosen was because of the closeness of the substation they could tie into, that makes it cost effective for the developer to do that, because it's right there. And then when they were explaining it to me, I'm like, well, they just lost their cost effectiveness if they can't use that substation, but they are still using.
Yeah, they tie into there, then use existing infrastructure between the two.
Okay.
Well, for me, the airport issue is just, it's almost embarrassing that they would even consider to do. This is reminding me of those little towns in the US where they put these giant toxic chemical plants and then go, I can't believe all these children are dying. It's almost the big people taking over these little towns like we don't matter. And it doesn't matter what we say. And I find that part, I know it's supposed to be a utility. And I've been recycling since before Kyle was born, but I really am concerned about this project because we have oil and gas industry. We have orphan wells everywhere that have been completely ignored. These are the same companies that 35 years ago said, oh, we promise we're going to put it on your land, Beth, and I promise we'll be there to take care of it. And they all walk away. So we might end up with this graveyard of solar panels.
So devil's advocate there, just sort of.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
He did explain that.
The trust.
The trust.
And it's actual cash per panel that they put in.
Okay.
They don't start till year 2 or something. Then they start putting that in so that by the end of year 10 or 15, that money plus the salvage value was significantly more than the cleanup all the way along, right? Because on year 3, there's not much cash there, but the salvage value of that brand new infrastructure is good.
Yeah.
And that's,
Thank you.
and it's actual cash. It's not like the bonds that the oil and gas industry relied on.
And my other concern, of course, is I find it hard to believe, perhaps we have the most outstanding pilots and not one of them has ever landed on the grass. But if one pilot over the last 20 years has landed on the grass off that runway because of a whoopsies, that person would potentially be deceased today had they landed on the grass. And now you've got multi-million-dollar solar panels everywhere. Not only will it cause destruction, but the financial liabilities of having, you know, it's like putting a bull in a china shop and going, well, we didn't think it would happen. But that's the concern about having it so close to a runway. Just
So my comment again, not being a pilot and not following that, is we need to take some direction from our local pilots. Kyle's probably closer to one of the local pilots than any of us.
But there's also a range of opinion there too.
there is.
Yeah.
That's where it gets really difficult because, and again, this is a financial potential windfall for the town. But if it affects property values, which are the lowest in the country to start with, we don't want to go down a rabbit hole where our property values are even less. But I have never seen a community whose property values have increased.
Can I ask where you guys are getting information of the property values are lower? I haven't, I've talked to other groups.
Yeah.
It hasn't affected.
It has
It's increased it, and when we are making the assumptions, that's what I don't like. We make assumptions and without the information,
The trouble you're gonna find, Councillor Thoreau, as you go through this process, in my opinion, is you're gonna find back both sides of the argument in both situations.
I'd rather have facts on both sides.
It puts you in a
just
difficult.
one.
I agree with
Yeah.
I don't take one, because if I don't have the information from one side, to justify this side. Like, why should I make the decision? Because I don't like it. I shouldn't listen to the other side.
It's just my information, but it's all good.
Yeah,
And
I know where you're getting it from.
the only
so-
alternative to get that accurate information would be to start hiring a consultant.
Right.
But financially, we are a really small community. We can't start hiring consultants to provide that. So we have to go on the same place that other people get their information.
Yeah.
And, but try to go reputable routes of actual studies that were done.
I just don't trust Google.
Yeah, right, exactly.
There was also a solar farm that was denied access by AUC near Calgary just recently.
Yeah.
That due to migratory birds in the area, it was recognized as a kind of a bird sanctuary area. And I'm not sure if Hanna fits in there. No, I know we're not designated, but the number of birds that come through this area, whether or not that might be something that, we could look into as well to see whether or not we would be somewhat comparable to that community that was denied to their liking, to see if that could help us as well, if that's what we so desire, is to have some arguments against having that. And from my understanding, Hanna has a huge amount of migratory birds in the area that draws a lot of bird watchers to our communities, and maybe that might be something that we can check out as well.
So Councilor Bowden, my understanding, and I did a quick look on their website yesterday, they do have their environmental study posted. I don't remember anything about migratory birds in there. I know they talk about burrowing owls and different types of species, but they do have their environmental study on the website that you can read. And my quick glance at it was that basically the study was saying there really is no environmental habitat concerns with that land.
Yeah.
But
But
I
that's a little
don't
bit
remember-
odd, if it's hired, they're hired by Pace to do that. If we do a comparison with the biological or biology professional that did the study for the community near Calgary, I think there may be, it might be something to look into anyways, but to me, it's a little bit biased and Pace is paying the bill.
Well, yeah, but at the end of the day, Councilor Bowden, I certainly, Pace is paying the bill.
Yeah.
But I guess it's my position or my respect for the consultant in the consulting industry that they're putting their title and their stamp on it, that they're not going to,
Yeah, it never hurts to have a second opinion.
no, but that second opinion would be at our cost.
Yeah.
Well, I guess looking at whatever the report was for this other community, and I haven't had the opportunity to do that yet, and so maybe some of that is comparable to our area.
Yeah, no, that's good call. Like I said, I glanced at it. And it could be there, but I don't remember whether there was any discussion of migratory birds in the study. I know burrowing owls were mentioned, but I don't know, I don't recall anything else, so.
But just the longest and anyway.
So we just need to put a whooping crane nest in the middle of it and go.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's things, I think that obviously there's some questions that we need answers for, so Todd and I are playing tag, we'll reach out and see if I can get him here and have him provide an update and answer some of these questions directly, so.
I think we should do some studies on our own, like building towns and Brooks, like Brooks has just gone through a big debacle over solar panels. They got 2 new ones going up. And I sit on the Brett's highway with Mayor Brooks.
Are they having difficulties with the community
Or
or?
the community, you know, like they're the same situation we are. It's actually the landowner and,
The developer.
yeah, that, you know, whether it's a go or not, really, yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
I think the landowners out here should maybe be notified that, you know, we don't really want it, you know, but.
The landowners were at the meeting.
communities don't.
Oh, were they? at the-
Yeah, which surprised me, but
Okay.
they were there,
I'm surprised, yeah.
so they certainly heard from that group.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and I understood that you were supposed to be contacted. Our land is within 800 kilometer or 800, whatever it is,
Meter.
meters from that site. We're across the road. We haven't been contacted, but our land was put on their site as a defense zone, and I think that's misleading and obviously wrong information. So
But it depends on what step though too. Maybe that's later in the process, once they make the application, I'm not too sure. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think anybody's been notified.
that's on their timeline that contacting those that were near their favorite site is a challenge, I believe. But I just had an issue with the accuracy there.
It sounds like it's a lot like the GFL. They can promise you the world, you know, until it's up and running, how do you know their actual results, right? You know, and we've already been stung once.
These solar panels don't stink. Yeah.
The one difference that I will say in that comparison is that it's not like there aren't other solar farms all over this province. Like I know there's one in Drumheller by the water treatment plant.
Yeah, it's the airport proximity, I think is the.
Well, and I think that's one of the big,
It is.
100% from, again, my personal opinion. We need to ensure that our airport operations are not impacted. That's our number one priority. And number two priority would be if it's moving forward and we have some input, is how do we make it more aesthetically pleasing in terms of whether there's bushes or shrubs or fencing that will screen the site as best can. The trouble with the site though is there is an incline as it goes up towards the runway. I think there's like a 30-foot difference from the runway to the bottom. So there is an incline, and so you can't really screen back there. But those are some of the concerns. Definitely airport being number one.
But he did mention that is what they do. They do screen it around. Also, if there is any connection to the reliability of our power source, is there going to be any sort of drawback or negative impact on connecting to the power grid in this area? So just if it overloads and we are blocked out for a period of time or something, that's something I heard.
Okay, no, I will see if we can definitely, as a first step, get Claude here to have an update and answer some questions council has. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to the next one, which is urban plan bylaw discussion.
So, again, I'll let Councillor Olson, lead this. I tried
Had
to,
maintenance here today.
provide some history, and I don't know if I got it all 100% correct, but my understanding, in 2017, December 2017, council did have a letter from a local resident inquiring about the availability or the possibility of an urban hen program. The Town of Hanna Animal Control Bylaw, which was approved in '93 and needs to be revisited. And in section 16 states, no person shall keep fowl or livestock within town limits. The land use bylaw does permit livestock in residential acreages, subject to animal units, number of animal units per acre. And the urban reserve district, which we do have some, allows for extensive agriculture. So, June 28th, council info session. Consensus was for administration to prepare an agenda item for the July 11th, 2017 meeting. And the council did pass a resolution that, basically the public should be consulted, direct administration to implement a public engagement process, including a non-statutory public hearing. And at the end of the day, that was carried, but at the end of the day, it was also, you know, our term's coming to an end in October. Maybe this would be better placed on the new council's plate.
We did that.
And I don't think, and I'm looking at Councillor Olson, I don't think we've had anything.
There was one
Formal
discussion
consent.
just like this where we did an informal vote about who was against us, who would entertain further discussion, and it was, decided that there wasn't enough interest. There's only a couple people that would support it, a couple that were,
On the fence.
on the fence, and then several that were hard against it. So it just wasn't brought up again. And I just got the vibe. We brought up just one quick discussion at this table that I thought it, and lots more communities doing it. It's, and I've talked to several at AUMA too that haven't had issues that they're aware of. I mean, I'm sure there's site to site issues, just like anything else when you've got a ratepayer responsible for something. To keep clean, but
So, we do, and I have talked with our municipal enforcement officer, we do need, and she's going to, when summer season is over, look at, revamping the bylaw, because it is 30 years old. And, needs to be updated and changed, and it would be a potential opportunity to then do that. But I do think that, as I did in 2017, if we do want to consider moving forward with this amendment, we probably would want to have some sort of public engagement process, because I think it would be a little bit controversial. You're gonna have some people who are opposed to them. You're gonna have some people that are supportive of them. But I think Councillor Olson kind of wants to get a feel from the other councillors, what your thoughts are on an urban hen program in the community. Am I right, Councillor Olson?
Yes.
Is that kind of want to know where you sit?
I've always been supportive of it. I'm actually surprised at how controversial it is, because this is agricultural. We live in an agricultural area. And then to say, you can have your chickens there, but you can't have them, and we're not talking, again, people will always think the cat lady with the 87 cats, and we have a few in town. That'll always happen, whether it's chickens, it doesn't matter. There will always be someone who makes a mess for everybody else. But in general, I don't see any reason why there should be a restriction at this level, or even a lottery on how many, but it's just reasonable in my opinion. So
it's also worth pointing out, whenever we did the strategic plan, I mean, that was one thing we talked about was urban agriculture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been a push, and I'd say we were almost cutting edge at that point, and now
no,
we
we're
move
backwards.
forward with a
Yeah.
lot of it, and a lot of other communities have, so we identified that properly.
I had actually not heard of a community that actually had such a problem with the hens that they had to reverse it, because it's not usually that big of an issue.
I haven't looked lately, but I know back in 2017, there were, in that era of time, there were a number of communities who voted it down.
Yeah.
And I know, Town of Stony Plain was one. But
Have they changed since?
I don't believe so.
No.
So
And again,
I
it's,
don't have a problem with it. As long as I think neighbors on either side have been informed and that they don't have a problem with it, I don't think there being a problem. as long as they're looked after and maintained, but is that going to be the bylaw officer's responsibility to monitor the citizens or?
Well, 100%, it will be, there will be in some enforcement, responsibilities.
Yeah.
And I guess like my comment, Counselor Bowden, on your, if we grant it, we have to check with the neighbors on both sides. That can be a little bit dicey because there might be another issue between the neighbors, and they know that Counselor Olson wants hens and they don't, so they'll just say no. And what do we do if a neighbor says no? Does that automatically mean that they can't? So there's some things to work out. When I did it in 17, and I will admit I haven't done a lot of research since then, a lot of them were issuing licenses to have your hens. And you had to have basically to get your license, you had to have your coop inspected, facility inspected, and your license could be pulled. And they were limiting the number of licenses per community. Some of them were one per every 1,500 households. Well, that would leave us with one.
Yeah.
But I think things have changed a little since 2017 in this regard. But it's like anything else. It will be an effective program as long as the owners are effective responsible pet owners.
Yeah.
It's the same with all of our other pets. The trouble you get into if you have an urban hen, and again, people become attached to their animals. So then you say to Joe, sorry, we're getting complaints from your neighbors because of the smell, you're not cleaning, etc. You have to remove your hen, then you get into some issues if they don't want to follow that. But it's like anything else, whether you're a responsible dog owner, responsible cat owner, responsible urban hen owner, it all comes down to those, being responsible. I think if you have a responsible owner, I don't think there'll be any issues at all. It'll be the ones that are not responsible owners that will have issues that in bylaw will have to be dealing with, so.
What do you think it's gonna cost, like, as far as attracting like skunks or
Lots.
Willis?
That I don't know.
No, it will, because we run chickens, we used to run 500 chickens at a time.
The one that is,
Skunks, you'll bring in your raccoon problem from out of town. All that stuff, it's the little things that we don't see right now that will bring in.
Yeah, this is another one that say it will. I mean, I've
No,
talked to
yeah, but
several communities that have.
skunks
they've never
are in
reported
town
an issue.
already, so it's,
do they have laying hens? The other communities are laying hens permitted, because it would be the eggs.
Yeah.
Oh, and none of them are for meat, they're all for.
we're just.
Yeah, it's just for the eggs.
Yeah, okay.
Not raising chickens, they're for the winter feast.
Yeah, the challenge, and I guess my question on the other wildlife that may be attracted here, is that something that can be controlled or dealt with based on the requirements of the setup of the property, saying the property would have to be fenced? Because I could see if you were on the edges of town and you didn't have a fenced yard, they might be much more attractive and easily accessible to them. But if you're on 3rd Street, Hanna, in everything, and you're in a fenced yard, would it you still have the same impact?
The whole thing is with skunks, they dig anyway, but the other thing, if I did track, we got rid of that problem is the feral cats that are wandering, but we already got that problem. So it's but the whole thing is if they're in a really good enclosure, then they're a lot safer that way. But
would it still the scent that attracts them, or what would attract
I think
something?
it used to be, it's just more or less, the manure smell and some of that. But the whole thing is if we keep that
Clean.
clean, But like I said, with skunk problem, we already got that, they're wandering through town, you see them. And that's where we have to supply the traps, the live traps and stuff.
Yeah, we have.
Couldn't consider the pilot project? We already have scouts that come into our community for other reasons, the garbage is left open and all that sort of thing. So that's something that we already have.
I don't know about a pilot project. Ultimately, council would have the authority to, if they change the bylaw to include it, they would have the authority to amend the bylaw to not include it, but then you've got people who have invested in dollars to establish it and maybe have got the program working and they're very happy with it, that you're then telling them, no, you can't. So I don't know if I would call it a trial project, but you would always have the ability to amend the bylaw to not allow it if there were significant issues that we came up against. So Councillor Thorough, what's your thoughts?
Oh, I like the idea, I was giving you a bad time about setting up chicken houses there and we can sell property. But no, I think it's a great idea, as long as we keep it, down to a bare minimum, not that, that's good. Start off with 7, let's keep going.
Yeah, and they're all around that, I just pointed out 4 to 7.
Yeah. Yeah, because I got friends in Calgary that got the license for it, so, and they're having no problem.
Yeah.
Brings the kids in the neighborhood over there to have more. Yeah, to see.
Yeah. Okay, no, it sounds like there's support to move forward, so we will probably, I don't know, again, not being a urban hen owner or following urban hens, I don't know when the process would be, like whether, I know that we want to look at reviewing the animal control bylaw, but probably not till the fall. Is that something that we can wait till, or do you want something to
Almost
start?
every example seems to be a separate bylaw, an urban hen bylaw.
Yeah,
There's not many that have worked into their
Animal
existing
control.
animal control.
Okay.
They made it as a separate, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Okay, so that's something we can do then is see if we can get a draft one together and.
No big rush, but I mean, by Friday.
But I think if we get one, I would treat it if we get one to council satisfaction. And we get it first reading, it wouldn't be one that we would recommend 3 readings in the same night. I would recommend first reading, and then it's out there, people can see what the requirements are, the guidelines, and provide some feedback on whether they're supportive or not supportive. And we could have what we called before a non-statutory public hearing, and allow people to come and speak, whether they're in favor or they're opposed, and prior to moving it forward to 2nd and 3rd readings. Okay, no, we can do that.
Just become that discussion. Council roundtable. You can start her off.
Yeah. So we went to Orion, that was an eventful,
I was gonna ask how that,
it was worthwhile to go, it's and the big thing that I got out of it, it's we gotta work with our neighbors. This is what they really promote, like for small areas, like we have already got the special areas, we got Harvest Sky and Route and everything, and some of the local. And that's what I really thought is, we gotta really promote, if we want something, we gotta work with our neighbors to promote, because we're so small. We're not going to draw in the $1 billion project, but we might get small projects. And it's a worthwhile thing, I think, for us to sit down with all our groups to look at it. She sent us all the paperwork and everything for it, so you can get it to.
I also attended that meeting. There was a huge group of Hanna representation, which was fantastic. It was really good. Again, it's interesting. Every meeting we go to now, Vern, it's the same people from the different communities who seem to attend, who have the same interests. So it's actually really, really nice because you start networking. So it was really good. It was a really good group. I don't know how much of it will filter down to Hanna, but if we continue to encourage Oyen as, you know, on the forefront, they've certainly had a lot of exciting things happen, which is good because it's a good little community and special areas, which again, always filters down to Hanna if they do well. So it was and Jordan Christensen was there and he had a really impassioned speech and it was nice to see him attend this in person. So yeah, it was good. Besides that, it's just grandma babysitting duties, lots of that. So that's been good.
I don't have anything to add. I guess usual committees, golf courses rolling. There's some more hiccups with management there. Water is slightly better. That last rain gave us enough to lose evaporation and stay low where we were at, but
We need some more.
yeah, we'll
Yeah.
keep wishing for 2 inches of rain every 3 days.
Yeah.
That's it.
I guess that's me, I attended the Alberta Investment Ready workshop in Oregon as well, and found it quite informative and useful. Fortunately, Martin Dakota was there as well from the Sky, and I believe he has most of the answers to the questions on the community portfolio, I guess. To submit back to the group that did the presentation. He had that done, I believe, a couple of years ago, and so it'd be nice to be able to see that information being utilized. And then I also, as you already know, attended the big meeting, and I think that's about all that I have to share.
Thank you. I attended the Big Country Waste Management meeting on 21st. We at the landfill, we're going to have a barbecue and stuff, and then a tour of the landfill and all that. We couldn't do it because of the rain. Everybody was so happy about that. Yeah, and then so we went to Youngstown, to the Swift area boardroom, and we had a meeting. We had supper there. They had hamburgers and all barbecue and stuff. And it was great. And the Lac La Biche for the Reds Memorial Highway Association was council. We didn't have a quorum, so we just done it, and we haven't said anything. Change it. And I went to step with Brad on 24th, and it was excellent. It was really good. It was very 117 students.
117, wow, that's awesome.
It was good. And other than that, that's all I've got to do.
So just a question, we're entering into vacation season. We have a council info, I don't even have the date here, whatever the last Wednesday of July is.
26.
Are people around, or are people gonna be
I'm still here.
vacationing and not be here? I'm looking at Councilor.
I don't have enough vacation for all the time I gotta take for council. No, I'll be here now.
Okay, just because sometimes we run into a situation where 3 or 4 people are gone for vacation and there's no use hosting the meeting. So, but it sounds like the mayor will be around. He's had his holiday just now, so he'll be around. So, okay.
Okay, I'd like to add to that, Big Country Waste, Sean reported recycling, there's no money in it. It's absolutely zero.
No, and the comment, Councilor Crowell, and I've had this discussion with Sean, and prior to him with Greg Shepherd. Waste costs money.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess recycling costs money as well. But at the end of the day, I think that we do have we do have people in the community, people in the region who want that social license on the recycling side. So I think that's why we've seen some backlash in terms of the paper bins being removed from the Super A Friesen Brothers, because it was easy access. Yes, you can still do it, but you have to drive, 2 miles out of town. And to some people, they don't have a strong social license, and that 2-mile drive
No,
breaks
too
for
much.
them. But I never have I ever once felt that we would be recycling, and we're selling the product, but the product we're selling is costing us so much more to make and transport than we're getting back. But it is, I guess, part of a social license and trying to be as good to the environment as we can. So
Big Country Waste is gonna move all recycling bins to the transfer stations.
yeah,
They're all gonna be, probably by today, they're done.
and I know that usually we're the first point of contact, because they still think that the town operates the transfer station and the recycling. So we've had numerous calls from residents who, where are those recycling? How come they took them? We want them back. And we forwarded them on to, we tell them to call the commission, whether they do take the next step or not, I don't know, but yeah, so there is a definitely, especially if we get people who move here from a city that had a recycling program, and they get used to it, and they like it, then they're like, well, how come we don't have one here? And they don't necessarily understand that or respect the scale that we have to operate on, and our remoteness from where the materials end up. So,
And like the cardboard recycling, they haul it in, Big Country Waste hauls it in themselves because of the freight.
yeah,
And they hauled in a load last Monday, I think it was. They went to Calgary, and it takes probably about 2 weeks to get enough bales
Yeah.
to fill a semi-trailer load.
Yeah.
They made $168.
yeah.
Now the fuel, like they didn't make that. I mean, that's what they got.
It's a little bit like Tanner's explanation. We sold $42,000 worth of alcohol, but it cost us this much on this side, except you got $168 in revenue, but it probably cost you $5,000 to do that. So I just don't know, Councillor Kroll, where you get to if you stop recycling cardboard, or like if you stop the program completely, I think there would be some significant backlash. So
Well, it's something that probably shouldn't be public known, but he's going to see if they can't incinerate it. It's a waste, because they go in there, they sit in there, and that's as far as they go. You've never seen any product that's, produced from it. That's the big thing.
yeah,
So I have a comment, like, glass no longer is separated out as well. I took my stuff to the dump the other day, and glass I was told to put it in a bin that had all sorts of other stuff with it. So, yeah, that is a bit of concern, and we've been doing this for years, and is that who's the one that is supposed to make the decision? Is it the Big Country Waste, or is it the municipality, or is it special areas, or who does make that decision as to what is going to be recycled and what isn't?
so right now, Councillor Bowden, the decision is Big Country Waste Commission's decision on what to recycle, what not to recycle, and how to deal with the waste stream. If Big Country Waste made a decision not to do any recycling at all, and council wished that we did some sort of recycling, the town could do our own program if council of the day said we should do our own program, but right now, the commission controls and operates the waste management stream and the recycling stream.
It's too bad that some of the, well, I'm assuming that the trucks that dump, take all the waste from Calgary to Concert, Coronation. If they're traveling back empty, it's too bad they can't make an arrangement to stop and pick up and share some of the costs to take that back to a recycling spot.
Okay,
That's it, looks like.
call the meeting to adjournment, I guess, eh?
Yeah. Good job, Deputy Mayor.
Oh, boy.
Thank you, Sandra.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Lori, for setting me up. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh,
I want to say that stuff would have been done by 9:30.
Which next bill one?
Those 2 items there. We
Oh,
weren't doing chickens and solar.
well, there was supposed to be a presentation from the Southeastern Alberta Community Foundation. I had arranged it. They called and reached out and wanted to present to council kind of where they're at, how their programs, what they're doing. And so I hadn't heard anything back to her that she couldn't, so I emailed her on Monday, didn't hear anything. And that did bounce back, so I called the number that was on the website for this lady, and